In this video, we're going to do some arithmetic with complex numbers. So namely, we're going to look at addition, subtraction, and multiplication of complex numbers. Now remember, a complex number is a number that can be written in the form a plus bi, where I is the square root of -1. Okay, so how do we add and subtract complex numbers? I think the easiest thing is to just do some examples. So what's 5 plus 9i plus 3 minus 7i? Well, what we do is we add the real parts, right? So 5 plus 3 gives us 8. Okay, and then we add the imaginary parts. We have a 9 and a minus 7, that becomes a 2. So we have 8 plus 2i. Okay, so 5 plus 9i plus 3 minus 7i, the 5 and 3 become 8, and the 9i and the minus 7i is 2i. So we add those two complex numbers, we get this. Okay, so that's pretty simple. So to add two complex numbers, you just add the real parts, and then plus, well, add the imaginary parts times I. Okay, now subtraction is also quite simple. So here we just subtract the real and imaginary parts. So 5 plus 9i minus 3 minus 7i. We do 5 minus 3, which is 2. And then we do 9i minus a negative 7i. That's going to be 9i plus 7i. That's 16i. Okay, so addition and subtraction of complex numbers is pretty easy. You just add and subtract the real and imaginary parts. Now multiplication is a little trickier. We don't just multiply the real parts and multiply the imaginary parts. In other words, we don't just do 1 times 5 and then do 2 times 3, right? What we have to do is FOIL this out. So we do 1 plus 2i times 5 plus 3i. So we multiply 1 times 5 first, that gives us 5, plus, now if we do the outside things, we get 1 times 3i, that's 3i. If we multiply the two inside things, that's 2i times 5, that's 10i. And if we multiply the last things here, we have 2i times 3i, that's 6i squared. Now remember, I squared is -1, right? I was the square root of -1, so I squared is -1. So what we have here is really 5 plus, well, the 3i and 10i is 13i. And then the 6i squared is really like minus 6, because it's plus 6 times minus 1. Okay, and what we end up with here is 5 minus 6, which is -1, and we still have the plus 13i. Okay, so when you multiply complex numbers, you essentially FOIL things out. So let's do this again. We have 3 minus 7i times 8 plus 2i. Let's do another example. Well, 3 times 8, that's 24, plus 3 times 2i, that's 6i, right? We're multiplying the outside things. If we multiply the two inside things, we get minus 56i, 7i times 8. And finally, we have minus 7i times plus 2i, that's minus 14i squared. But minus 14i squared is really like plus 14. Okay, because I squared, remember, is -1, so minus 14 times -1 is like plus 14. Okay, well, we still have this plus 6i and minus 56i, so that gives us minus 50i. So we have 24 minus 50i plus 14. If we combine the constants here, 24 and 14, that gives us 38 minus 50i. Okay, or 38 plus a -50 times I. Okay, so notice our final answer is a complex number. Now one more. This one we have 3 minus 7i squared. Well, we can't just square the 3 and square the 7i. What we need to do is FOIL this out. We do 3 minus 7i times 3 minus 7i. Right, that's what 3 minus 7i squared means. Okay, now if we FOIL this out, 3 times 3 is 9. We're going to get a minus 21i from the outside terms, and also a minus 21i from the inside terms. And then we have minus 7i times minus 7i, that's plus 49i squared. Okay, so we have 9 minus, well, 21i and 21i is 42i, so 9 minus 42i, and it's going to be minus 49, because again, 49i squared is like minus 49. Because I squared is -1. Now 9 minus 49 is -40, and we still have the minus 42i. So we get -40 minus 42i, or you could write it as -40 plus a -42 times I. Okay, so that's how you add, subtract, and multiply complex numbers.